All right, I'm here with Matt Quock from Mountaintop Games, and we're going to discuss his new game that he has on Kickstarter called The Primary. And how's it going, Matt?
It's good. Thanks for having me.
We talked about this game on a previous podcast. I want you to talk a little bit about it and tell everybody what it is and how it works and a little bit of the details.
Sure. So like the name might suggest, it's an election-themed game where all the players are acting as candidates in a primary election. And although it's a political or election-themed game, there's not really anything political about the gameplay or the experience. You don't really need to know the experience. You don't really need to know the hot topic, current events, or issues. You don't need to debate or negotiate with your opponents. It's a little bit more centered around the campaign strategy and tactics that you might encounter during a primary election.
I really enjoy the theme. It's nice to see some political themes that aren't, divisive or controversial. Just, hey, this is what happens in a primary. Good, bad, take it, leave it, whatever.
Right.
One thing I really enjoy is the card selection. So how'd you decide on that mechanism to be the main mechanism in the game?
Sure. So I actually started the design process with an old roommate of mine, Justin Hertz, and that was actually kind of his idea. So the very first night that we were working on the game, and I kind of came up, or I had this idea for the primary election as a mechanic in a board game for a while, and it was kind of brewing for a little bit. And then I told him about it, and I was like, hey, I think I could make a board game about this. What do you think? And we were kicking ideas around. And initially I wanted to do something more based on like action points where you could spend your points every round in a number of ways. And the decisions would be more centered around how do I want to spend my limited action points? Where, it's pretty transparent with other players what you're doing. And maybe you're taking turns or maybe you're using all your points at once. I don't know. But he kind of took that idea and ran with it a little bit. And that very first night that we were working on the game, he's like, no, we should do cards, and you're kind of hiding from your opponents how you're planning your campaign. You're not telling your opponent, hey, I'm gonna go give a speech over here. Why don't you plan against what I'm doing? You want to hide your actions. So that's sort of what inspired and planning out your strategy ahead of the round.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was watching a little bit of the Kickstarter video, and I saw that. And once I saw that mechanism, I really wanted to know more about this game because I like that simultaneous selection kind of, and then you're kind of pre-programming your turn, which is pretty neat. And it just piqued my interest for sure.
Yeah, it's very. I haven't played a ton of games where you have the action programming, but it's not the most harsh interpretation of it. A lot of the cards have a little bit of flexibility built into them. So even if your plans kind of get ruined by somebody else's actions, you can still react to what they're doing and maybe travel somewhere different or decide to spend your advertising money in a different region.
Yeah, that's nice. Some of those like harsh games can really get to you after a while. So it's nice that this one's a little bit of has some forgiveness in it. So you said you had an idea about an election game. So was this the intended theme all along for this game?
Yeah, it was definitely inspired by the past election cycle. And really the main premise or like concept behind the game came from the primary election process. And what I found most interesting about that was how each state votes at a different point in time, as opposed to the general election where it's just one candidate versus the other, or maybe a third party. But in the general election, everyone votes on one day, and by the end of the night, more or less who won. I just thought the primary election process is so much more interesting where each state is voting at a different point in time, and, it takes a process of weeks or whatever to understand who's winning and who's getting momentum, and finally, in the end, who won. So that was really the premise behind the mechanic and the theme. Over the course of the development, it really hasn't strayed from that.
So did you think about having it more specific to certain political people, or did you just want to go with the non-controversial theme all along?
Yeah, I knew ahead of time that politics as a theme could be very divisive, or like a love-hate thing that would just turn a number of people off right away. So I figured you could go one of two ways, and really go all out and make it very politics heavy, or try and keep it maybe a little bit more neutral and accessible. And that's the way that I wanted to go. Um, I didn't want to have references to like Democrats or Republicans or a Green Party or whatever. I wanted people to be able to play with friends or family who have different political ideologies, and not get into arguments and things like that. So I just wanted to, despite the theme, still be very neutral, and have as little actual politics involved.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, it still opens people up for discussion because it is, a hot button topic. But I mean, I think the neutral theme was a little, probably a more welcoming for sure.
Yeah.
I tried to look on your company's Facebook page to see if you had any more games that you've done before this, and I don't know if I was very successful. So have you done any other designs before this one?
So I haven't done anything else that's been published. And actually, before this game design, I only really tried out a few others that were, pretty miserable, not very fun. This one just kind of seemed to strike gold, as far as getting lucky and having something that's fun to play, and everything else. So this is my first, stab at a real. So this is my first, stab at a real board game design and self-publish and Kickstarter. The whole shebang.
You can't tell it's a first design because it looks polished and streamlined and amazing. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Do you have any plans after the Kickstarter? We're going to say it's successful. It will successfully fund because you're pretty close. Do you have any plans after the Kickstarter funds to go to retail, or are you going to do a second edition Kickstarter, or how's all that going to work?
I don't have concrete plans. I haven't really thought about a second edition or another print run on Kickstarter. I've had a few local game stores here and there who are interested and and a couple have backed the Kickstarter. So hopefully, enough people play it and say good things and enjoy it, that there might be some more demand for retail. But I don't really have concrete plans or avenues for distribution and major retail. It's one of the things that I'll have to look at really closely, hoping that it does fund, is how many do I want to print, how much risk do I want to take on, and hope that retailers will back, or buy a few copies for me here and there. But right now there's not a ton of concrete plans laid for that.
Right. Yeah. It usually depends on, how many you sell and how many backers back it and all that. I understand. I was just didn't know if you thought that far ahead or anything.
I've tried to reach out, but I don't have the best networking yet for distribution or retail. So my guess is it'll be somewhat minimal.
Right. Are you going to try to go to cons like Gen Con or Origins to try to make some of those networking connections to maybe assist in the retail piece?
I don't have, again, no concrete plans. Definitely stuff locally. Probably Origins would be the most likely one for me. Traveling, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, so getting out to California and stuff might not be as feasible. I'd love to go. I've never been. But yeah, definitely conventions would be a great way to just, get more involved in the community, meet some people, and, hopefully make some of those connections.
Yeah, I hope you do go to Origins because that's my favorite convention, and it's just right down the road from me in Columbus, so I could definitely check it out if you show up there, so I'll be looking for you.
Nice. That'd be awesome.
Most designers have a designer or a game that got them into wanting to design a game. So do you have a specific designer or game mechanism that you really enjoyed that made you want to create your own game?
So I have a favorite designer, and maybe it's a little bit more of recent. So I don't know if they specifically got me into design, or just the fact that I like a lot of his design. I could probably say two. I think I really like a lot of Uwe Rosenberg stuff. I've been on kind of like a worker placement kick a little bit recently here. I'm also a huge fan of Jamie Stegmaier's stuff, both his games and everything that he contributes to the industry. He's been a huge resource through his blogs and everything else for a lot of the stuff that I've tried to do with my Kickstarter campaign and the game design and stuff. But honestly, I've been playing kind of these hobby board games or more complex board games for only the past couple of years, and really the last year or a little bit longer have been looking at and working towards designing games. So I don't know if I could really attribute, a lot of influence or inspiration to one particular designer or game, just being so kind of new, at least relatively to the industry and the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Some people are creative and just come up with ideas. But I didn't, but there are some people who, I played the Stefan Feld game and this game's amazing and I wanted to make my own game because of it,
Sure,
There's that type of issue too. So I wasn't sure what route you took. So, and also along the lines of the designer, do you have a favorite game that you're currently playing right now?
Yeah, so going back onto the Jamie Stegmaier train, I'm kind of a little late to the party, but lately I've been a big fan of viticulture, again, with the worker placement stuff. Yeah, I just, the theme is pretty fun, and the gameplay and the mechanics and everything I just think are really cool. So I've been into that one lately. I play a lot of 2-player games with my girlfriend, so we've been doing some of the Uwe stuff. I really like the Caverna Cave versus Cave also.
Yeah, I actually just joined the viticulture hype this year too. I hadn't played it until maybe January this year, and that is an amazing game. So I'm with you 100% there.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I like it.
So now we're gonna shift over into some rapid fire stuff, just silly, kind of give you a chance to say some things that you like.
Sure.
So first we have, do you like subs or do you like sandwiches?
Subs, for sure.
Blue or green?
Blue.
Paper clips or rubber bands?
Oh, man. That one's tough. I'll say rubber bands. I use them to hold together some of my games.
Yeah, that's probably what most of us do. Stefan Feld or Reiner Knizia?
Reiner, yeah.
That's painful. Checks or debit cards?
It's probably not that controversial, but debit cards.
Yeah. Do you like games with minis or wooden bits? Minis or wooden bits?
I'm not the biggest minis fan. I don't know. I haven't gotten into them yet. So for now, wooden.
Good answer. Water or juice?
I'm trying to be healthier, so I'll say water, but I really mean juice.
All right, I like it. Snow or rain?
Snow.
Rock or country music?
Rock, for sure.
Alexander Hamilton or George Washington?
George Washington.
Yeah, since you had a political game, I had to throw some political people in there.
I like it.
Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Ooh. Christmas.
Would you rather be a jeweler or a tailor?
Let's say tailor.
Yeah, I think that would be more interesting. There's probably more money in jewelry, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sticking with tailor.
All right, the biggest question of them all. The primary or Fireball Island?
I know this will buck the popular opinion, but I'll say the primary. You can probably find an old copy of Fireball Island somewhere.
That's true. I actually prefer the primary as well. So good answer. All right, so one more time before we get off here, go ahead and talk about the Kickstarter, how many days you have left, how much the price point is, and just a few more details that you may want people to know.
Sure. So the day that we're recording this, there's a week left, so it ends on April 17th. So getting into the home stretch here. It's $35 for a copy of the primary. Shipping depends on where you live. If you're in the U.S., that's $8. I do have local pickup in case you're, around Madison, Wisconsin. We also just added a new pledge. People have been asking for different ways to get into the game, so you can become a journalist and have your name and your picture on the byline of a card, as if you wrote the article for the news cards. And yeah, we're getting close to funding. It's like 75% or so. So appreciate you checking it out if you have any interest.
I didn't. Yeah, I guess I haven't looked at it for a bit to see the card about getting your name on it. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that was actually just an update from today. It's been a little while back and forth with the artists and the graphic designers trying to understand, what they think would look best and trying to make a decent proposal to put out there to show backers. So for the last week, there's a new pledge level.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll definitely. I'm definitely gonna go check that out again. I may want to get my name in that game.
Very cool.
But yeah, we'll keep talking about it on the podcast. We'll keep promoting it on the channel, and we'll try to help you get this game funded because it's a game I'm really interested in. Kind of want to back. I don't back a ton of Kickstarters just because I have kids and stuff.
Sure, sure.
This is definitely one that I'm intrigued. We'll say that I'm intrigued at this one. So
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate having me and all the support and everything else. It's great.
all right. Well, thanks for taking some time out and talking to me, and I hope to see you at Origin so I can check out this game.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night, and yeah, I hope to meet you there too.